Good evening and good morning to the ones who are joining us from here in India and from the different parts of the world. I'm Mashood, and I would like to welcome you once again to the second part of the dtalks of this very interesting organization, Literacy Chicago, that's been doing amazing work, as we discussed yesterday, in the area of adult literacy. And we had the director of program development of Literacy Chicago, Joanne, who took us through, some wonderful stories of what Literacy Chicago is doing. It is as we discussed, it is the oldest literacy organization of the city of Chicago. And yesterday we had a discussion on what the organization is, what is the vision, what are the values, and what do some of the programs look like. And Joanne took us through that in her presentation. And today, our focus of discussion will be on this very important topic of what should be the approach to curriculum and pedagogy for adult literacy, and what would be some of the learnings and experiences from Literacy Chicago, what has worked, and what are some of the learnings, and what are the things that need to be different when it comes to adult literacy. So this is again very important because organizations working on literacy of children, and when we're talking about literacy of adults, there has to be that nuance, which I think, Joanne, also you did mention yesterday, of how the seating arrangement specifically for adults needs to be very different. So that was very interesting, and we're really looking forward to learn more from your presentation today, and after which we'll take up some questions for discussion.
Thank you so much, Mashood, for that beautiful introduction. I am very happy to be here this morning because I am going to talk to you about my passion. And so let's pull up the slides and get going. For me, it's morning, and of course, good evening to all of you who are on the other side of the world or in different parts of the world. Maybe it's afternoon. But here it's the morning. It's a beautiful day, and I'm thrilled. So Literacy Chicago is the oldest literacy organization in the city, as Mashood told you. I'm the program director of program development, which means really I get to do all kinds of fun things, including training all of our volunteers, and I'll tell you about them later on, and also experimenting and trying to develop some new ideas in how we can teach adults. Slide, please. Just a reminder, this is our mission. We're all about empowerment through education. And once again, that's our wonderful executive director. So yesterday, as Mashood just told you, we looked a little bit at the facts and figures in the United States, in Chicago, and then our program overall. And today, we're going to look at our approach. And I had some questions about volunteering, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about that as well. We are in Chicago. Just a little reminder, here's the map of where we are on beautiful Lake Michigan. And if you've never been here, please come and give me a call when you get here. So first of all, I wanted to talk about some of the reasons that people didn't learn to read when they were younger. So there are many, and I've listed a few here. A lot of people who can't read also end up, unfortunately being born in poor neighborhoods where there's gangs or danger, and so they can't go to school. Sometimes they do go to school and they have terrible teachers because the city hasn't decided to put the funds in to those neighborhoods that are overcrowded, and their learning disabilities might not have been detected because, again, schools are overcrowded, or this is a common problem all over the world. as related disorders. My own son had attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and I can tell you it was hard for him to learn to read. Mental illness. And I just want to tell you about one of our students who told me that she didn't go to school because her mother was afraid to let her go. She grew up in an area in Chicago where there was public housing called Cabrini Green, which has now been removed. But it was so dangerous there. She's told me so many stories, and I would love if somebody wants to help her write her book to reach out to me, because she has a book that about this place where she saw things like babies being thrown out of windows and other scary things. So that's like, so she didn't go to school. Another student got into drugs, and he went way down, as far down as you could go. The church got him out. One day he had a revelation, and he decided he was going to change his life. He ended up getting a great job in a company that made windows. And when the owner decided to retire, he gave the company to this man, who then led the company for years. He had 50 people working for him. He didn't know how to read or write. So when he retired, he came to us, and now he's learning to read again. So there are many, many stories. We could spend the whole hour talking about stories, and I'll tell you a few more as we go. So let's move on. These are some pictures of our students. And as I mentioned yesterday, we get away from the traditional classroom where people are in rows, where they feel like they're back at school. We don't want them to feel like they're back in a schoolroom, because that was not a successful experience for them, because they didn't learn to read. Some people have gone all the way through high school and they still can't read. That means they went to school and the school just pushed them along. So actually, some of these pictures, the 3 pictures on the right, were taken yesterday, and I told my students that they would be on today. And you can see we're wearing masks, although some of them pulled it off for the picture. And the man over there in green is a wonderful teacher, Steve. And Maya, the other woman standing up, is a young volunteer who's 19 years old, taking a year off before college, and decided to come and work with us for about 6-7 months. Let's go on. So maybe you're wondering, how do our students find us? Many people ask me this question. And since we've been around for 54 years, we're known in the city. So many agencies reach out to us, social workers call us, there's a lot of word of mouth, and then our partners. And I just want to mention that this couple here is our executive director welcoming back one of our adorable students after that was the first time they saw each other after COVID. And it was so cute because they were dressed the same. I had to take a picture. Once our students come, they stay for a pretty long time. And I have a very short video to show you, giving you an idea of why they came to Literacy Chicago and why they want to learn. It's very short, just a minute.
Why did I come to Literacy Chicago for classes?
Why did you come to Literacy Chicago for classes?
To believe in myself that you can do anything in the class.
To build my reading.
Because I want to improve my reading and also my writing, and to learn more and someday get my GED.
I knew I needed to come back to school to get my GED because I want to better my life.
I believe that education is good and it can help to build up to improve my reading.
How have Literacy Chicago helped me?
Brought me a long way. I can enjoy life a little bit better because I can not only look at things, I can read now.
The doors are always open, and that helps me.
to understand how to read more.
When I first came, I was at an 8th grade reading level, and now I'm at a 10th grade reading level. So now I'm reading better and doing better math. So it has been very positive.
I've been doing extremely well for me because I can read now, write.
Would you recommend Literacy Chicago to a friend?
Yes, I will.
Yes, I have lots of friends.
No,
Why not?
because I don't have any friends.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes, I would have.
Why? Because the people's here, the teachers here, they is so awesome. And, you know, they make you feel like at home, you know, they don't judge you. You know, they let you take your time and put you wherever that you need to be put.
Because I think it's a good program. It has a lot of benefits.
Come on, join me. You get to learn.
so some of those people are still with us. Okay. We don't have to watch it twice, although I know it's a really good video. I feel so much for some of those students. One of those women couldn't read a catalog, you know, and I think I mentioned her yesterday, and today she's fine. She's at almost fourth grade level and started at nothing really. Our approach, we think, it's really different from other reading organizations. First of all, we're caring. We never turn anyone away. We always try and find a way to help each person, and each person comes with their own stories, which sometimes they share and sometimes they don't want to share. We want our classes to be fun. I firmly believe that you can learn better if you're enjoying yourself and remember things better if it comes with pleasure as opposed to work. So I have a humble request. I'm trying to get a word into the English language. I need a little help here. I've been working on this for the last few years. We don't give home work. We like to give home fun. We want them to feel like what they're doing at home in between classes is fun, it's enjoyable, it's not work. That's what we tell kids in school, you gotta work hard. But no, we want them to enjoy, have fun, take pleasure, and then learning becomes a positive experience. We want our classes to be interesting, engaging, non-traditional, as I already mentioned, innovative, and very interactive. So I've tried to, over the years, talk to and train all of our teachers into thinking about teaching adults in a different way, not just teaching how to sound out words, but really understand what they're saying, what they mean. And I'll tell you a little later about a really interesting pilot we did that was amazing. Let's go on to the next slide. So learn something new. The idea is that let's teach something while we're teaching to read, because obviously many of these students, since they didn't learn to read, they didn't succeed in school, and so they didn't learn all of the things that you learn when you go to school. They didn't learn history, they didn't learn geography, they didn't learn science, they didn't learn math. Everything you learned in school just passed them by. So we've developed a way of organizing our classes, and I have a little list on the next slide of our program with all the names of the classes, so you can see, maybe you can't see, but I'm going to go through them one by one, so I'll explain to you what we're doing. So we have Monday through Thursday, basically 10 to 2:30. We've started, as you can see, classes inline and in person. What we've done is we purchased a small machine called an OWL, and this allows us, it's a projector basically, it's a video camera and a speaker so that you hook up to your computer so you can bring people into the classroom, from outside, and the people in the classroom can also see on a screen who's with you. So it's a way of bringing all of our students together. And it's working pretty well. So Monday morning, we start with reading for everyday life. And this is teaching them to read things, some of the things I mentioned yesterday, like a prescription, labels on a can. Wait, a little fast. Yeah, thank you. How to fill out a form, all the things that come up in your everyday life that you have to read. And we have 2 teachers for every class. So we have one in the classroom, 1 online. Before we had 2 in the classroom, so we could do breakout groups and work on different levels. And all of our teachers are volunteers. So I know that means they have their own life. And I'm so grateful for every hour that they give us. But when they go away, their teaching partner, their co-teacher, can take over with no interruption for the students. So go ahead. The next class on Monday afternoon is a new class that we piloted during the summer called What's Your Story? This is taught by an amazing woman in Chicago whose job is teaching storytelling to big corporations. And she came to us and said, can I help? And I said, how about trying to teach our students how to tell a story, how to tell their story, or any story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. So if you've really never read books, you don't know how to put together a story. You don't know how to organize your thoughts. You don't know how to explain something in order for people, in chronological order or another order. And the students adored this program. They adored Susie. She's working with an actress, Liz, and that's Liz in the picture over on the right. And they loved it so much. They demanded more. So we're continuing this program throughout the year. And she has 10 people who show up every time. And boy, every time I walk into the classroom, they're laughing. The next class, Tuesday mornings, they start out with news of the day, which is fabulous. They take something from the news, a small snippet, and decipher it. First, we go through the vocabulary and see, can they find the vocabulary in the text? We don't just hand it to them and say, read. We do it step by step so that you look at the vocabulary. Then you might do what we call duet reading, which means reading with the teacher, or echo reading, which is like reading right after the teacher. And we go through and we talk about it and we try to understand what's in the text. And then we can ask people to read out loud one by one. Tuesday afternoons, we have a very exciting, it's on the next slide. Oh, I missed Tuesday afternoons. Well, I'm sorry. It's Tuesday afternoons. We have a digital literacy class for learners. It's a very, very basic class. And we're just trying to be able to make sure that everybody knows how to open their email, create an email, open it, get in, click on a link to at least be able to join an online class. Hopefully, we won't have to work at home again. But I think all these digital skills are so important. Once they can do that, we go on and we teach them typing and how to find things on the internet and how to enter the digital world. So this is the Wednesday morning program, which will be starting in about 2 hours in my time, and I should just be arriving at the office. This is taught by an amazing woman, Karen Frederick, who is an unbelievable volunteer. She's been with us for longer than I have. She started about a year before me, and she does the tutor training with me, and she helps edit a book that we put out every year. And she's a retired engineer, and now I'm very grateful to be able to call her a friend. So Reading the World is all about history, geography, science, and that's what she does. She picks all kinds of interesting subjects and I think right now she's talking about different kinds of animals, and the students love it. Very popular class. In fact, they're all popular. They all come every day. Wednesday afternoon, we have a class that we piloted a few years ago that is so much fun. It's called Read Through Song, Learn to Read Through Song. And the students get to choose a song they like, and then the teacher brings in the words. So they already kind of know the words. Now all they have to do is find those words in their head on paper. And they love this. And at the end, everybody sings, and it's fun, and it's unusual. And this has been going on now several years. And, that's because we tried something new, and it worked. That was Wednesday afternoon. Thursday morning is a new class taught by another pair of amazing teachers, Betty and Aaron. They've been working together 2 years. I think they started before COVID. So that's how we measure time now, before and after COVID. And this is a new twist on their class. They focus on phonics a lot, but now we're developing a new phonics class. And so they decided to kind of switch over and do American trivia. So they pull something from American history, and at the end of the program, of their program, it's like a program, their class, they have a game like Jeopardy. And so they have to remember everything they've learned, and they get into the game. And this has started just a few weeks ago, and so far it's going great. And the students love Betty and Aaron, who are devoted volunteers. And then Thursday afternoon, we have a math class, and this is basic math. I'm talking arithmetic, really, with a wonderful woman who joined us during COVID. And now she's coming in and trying to help them get math into their heads. And again, we try and do a lot of math for everyday life. So going to the grocery store, buying something, how to deal with money, the things that you come up against every day where you need some math. So those are our regular programs. And we're working, as always, trying to innovate new things. So we are working on a phonics class. And I just also want to mention that I'm very excited to tell you that we'll be working with Global Dream on with their program. Their phonics class that I love starts at the very bottom with people who don't know really anything. Our students come in a little higher usually. So we're going to use the Global Dream program, and we're going to test it on our students who already know a little more, and see if that clicks in their heads. And I think we're going to see a huge jump in levels after we go through the Global Dream program. And meanwhile, we're working on a class, and I have 6 volunteers working with me. And of course, we've called it Phonics Fun, because gotta have fun. And it's going to be for adult literacy students and beginning ESL students. It's a 12-week program. So for every week, we have written a song. And right now we're working on finding musicians. So if you're a musician who can play a little blues, compose a little blues, we're trying to find several musicians to each record 1 or 2 songs. And I have a sample. It's not quite finished but on the next slide, you'll see this is a song we wrote. It's called Pat's Bug Blues. And the theme of that song, of the lesson, was patterns. So this is week 1, we're trying to teach them patterns. And I'm going to play you the first draft, it's not finalized, of the song that was written.
Pat's Bug Blues. Pat came home late last night, saw a bug in the cake, put on the light, was a dark night. Said to the bug, get out of my sight, or you'll have a big fight. Out of the cake, 'cause it's not right.
Okay, you can stop it there. It goes on, but the idea is, again, having discovered that people remember better through song, we decided to put in song. And why the blues? Well, Chicago is the home of the blues, and people here who live here know these rhythms and already, so it's something familiar with words that we've written. And some of those songs, let me tell you, they're pretty silly and funny. And we thought for our ESL students, people are coming to the city, that's a good way for them to also learn a little bit about the cultural aspect of Chicago and the blues. So now I'm going to tell you about an exciting program that we piloted in February 2020, just before we all had to go home. And this, again, was an amazing program. This idea came to me one day because we had a student who didn't know how to pronounce English very well. She could speak it, but she mumbled. We couldn't understand her. And since we have so much respect for our students, we didn't want to be saying, your pronunciation's wrong. I mean, she lived here her whole life. And I thought one day, hey, if we read a play, we can correct the character's pronunciation. That's not her. So that's how I had the idea. And we decided to do a pilot. So if you go on to the next slide, I think it explains a little bit about why we thought this method would work, because we've discovered that the hurdles to being able to read are the difficulty of putting words together in context, in a meaningful way, because you can see students like sounding out each word, but by the time they get to the end of the sentence, they don't know what it means. And if you've ever learned another language, maybe you can read it, and especially if you're kind of a beginner and you're still figuring out how to say the written word, by the time you get to the end of the sentence, you don't know what you've read. And I discovered that, it goes for English as second language students as well as adult literacy. So I thought, okay, but in the theater, you have to understand what you're saying so you can say it in the correct way. The other problem that we discovered is that many of our students are not visual learners. So for me, and probably for many of you, when you read a book, you kind of see it in your head. And if you're like me, you go see the movie that was made from the book and you think, oh my God, they got it all wrong. The main character doesn't look like that. Maybe he doesn't sound like that. And often we're disappointed by the movie after reading the book, because we had our own movie in our heads and we saw it, but our students don't see it because most of them are not visual learners, which may be one of the problems that they've had in learning to read. As I mentioned, pronunciation. And then again, they didn't learn the normal way, so let's try something new. So if we move to the next slide, I'll tell you how we put this together. So that was my idea. Go ahead. And we were trying, like I mentioned, trying to put words together so they understand. It's not just a string of words. And go on. So we did a pilot, and I chose 6 students from level 0, kindergarten level. I mean, who knew a few words, but they were still below first grade level. And who I think the student who was the highest reader was about in second grade, the end of second grade. And we had 9 sessions, which turned out to be 13 and a half hours. And I found a dramatist who was willing to work with us. And she interviewed the students about their lives and wrote a little script about that they were in. It was sort of like a Greek tragedy. So each student had their, it wasn't a tragedy, but it was set up with a main speaker and a chorus. So the main speaker told about their lives, and then the chorus responded, and then there were parts where everybody was reading together and parts where people were reading alone and parts where there were conversations between two people. So we had 9 weeks. We practiced reading. We told them, we don't want you to memorize this. It's a play reading. And it was so much fun. So here are some of the scenes while we were practicing. And I don't know if you can see him very well. The man in the left standing up on this first slide is the person, I think, whose life was completely changed by this experience. And you can see that, I don't know if you can see in the pictures, he's got dreadlocks, and you can see his shirts hanging out, and his pants were always worn, in the half off fashion. And he kind of came into class and not very motivated. This class changed it for him. It snapped in his head. He told me, "No, I like reading." And he came ever since. He's come to every single class. He's still coming to our classes. He comes every day. He has cut his hair short, tucked in his shirt, and I'm telling you, he looks like a businessman. If you put a suit on him now and you walk him down Main Street, you'll think he's the CEO of a company. He's completely transformed. And I recently spoke to his advisor who confirmed that to me. He says he's a new man, a completely new man. He's got a job. He's got a place to live. His reading is just getting so much better. So I have some more pictures. And what we did at the end of this is we gathered together about 50 people to come and watch the reading. And the students got so much applause. The woman in the middle is my friend Liz, who's a volunteer and an actress. So she was in a play, and she invited them all to come and see the play. The man over on the right is a director, a young director. And of course, over on the left is our student, Harold, who's an amazing guy who couldn't read, and now he enjoys books in the parks. I told you about him yesterday. I have a few more pictures just to give you an idea. You can see this man in the middle. That's the man I was just telling you about. And you could see the enthusiasm in his face as we went through the class. The woman on the right is the playwright. And go on. I just put in a whole bunch of pictures so you could kind of get an idea of like how non-traditional this classroom was. And some of them have discovered a love of theater. They were able to envision things, and this really went way far beyond what I had expected. Go on. So the gains were twofold. First, the literacy gains, which is what I was more expecting. And they all understood the text better. They understood punctuation and how pausing or not pausing between words changes the meaning, their interpretation of words and their emotions, and how to stress words that are not normally stressed to change the meaning of an idea. Like in the sentence, "I didn't say she stole the book." You could say, "I didn't say she stole the book." "I didn't say she stole the book." "I didn't say she stole the book." So that's very important when we're speaking and reading. And if you're just sounding out words, you don't get it. And their reading levels, wow. I'm going to show you in a minute where they went. It was amazing. To my surprise, they also had some other gains, which was a knowledge of theater. I didn't really think about the fact that they didn't know much about the theater. Some of them, I think all of them, in fact, had never been to a play. So they got kind of an introduction to the theater, an introduction to acting. They learned to read a script with what you read, what you don't read, the stage directions, the italics, the sound off, and all of those things. And they learned intonation to be able to read using intonation to increase their comprehension for themselves and for the people listening. And I think on the next slide, I have my chart that, oh, no, I forgot more benefits. The other benefits were gaining confidence and discovering group work. They'd never worked together on anything. And then, of course, back to fun. So here are the results. You can see there were 6 students. So they didn't all come to all the sessions, but I've totaled up the hours. And so we did an assessment called SORT, before and after. And this basically is by grade level. You can see that every single student increased their grade level, their scores, and 3 changed grade levels. So the person I was talking about went from 9, which is kindergarten level, 0.9, to 1.5, which is the middle of first grade. And I can tell you a lot of that came just by having confidence and having fun. One person went up to 4th grade from 3rd grade. And, this was just in a very short time. They met once a week for an hour and a half, and you can see some of them didn't even get all of the hours. So we were thrilled. And going forward, we want to, in fact, I found a student from Loyola University, DePaul University here in Chicago, and she's a playwright student. Right now we're working on a book of plays that we're going to publish and hopefully spread this method around the world. So once we finish, I'm hoping to be invited to come to India and to other places where I can teach teachers how to use this method. And we're still looking for money. Here I go again with my money. If anybody wants to donate any money for this, we're always happy. On our website, there's a donate button on every page, because the money will go for, if you look at the next slide, what we'll use it for is, to help pay the person who's writing, the proofreading, advertising, marketing, and then, of course, we'd want to print some books out and give them to the students, writing a teacher's guide. So if you do want to get involved, please feel free, and we will put your name in the book. I think that's my next slide. We'll, of course, thank you by putting your name into this book. So I wanted to tell you about our volunteer program. We have over 150 volunteers. During COVID, it was really difficult. Some people decided they could not do volunteering over the internet, especially some of our older volunteers. But some, decided to learn and just kept on with their students. Over on the right, you could see a picture from our training, and I have some more pictures and some more information about training. We have 15 hours training that I teach with the woman I was telling you about, Karen. We recently started a hybrid program. So we have pre-COVID, which we taught 2 full days, 2 Saturdays in a row. Then came COVID, and we had to rethink our training, and we put some of it on a platform online where students would go and get assignments, pick them up. And then we had 4 Zoom meetings, and it actually worked a lot better than we thought. So now we're at a hybrid model. So we meet twice online, and then we meet for a Saturday morning, and we have 4.5 hours together. So they have some work in groups, some work at home, and of course we don't call it work, we call it fun, home fun. And you can see these women do have fun. And that's women, but I also have a lot of men tutoring, but more women, funny enough. Then all of our tutors can either tutor one-on-one, and in these pictures you could see two couples of tutors. The man over here, Sanjay, I had to put a picture of him in with his student Crystal. She calls me Mama, and I already met her real mom, who I have adopted as my sister because we share a daughter, I guess. And Sanjay is a young guy whose parents were immigrants from Bangladesh. He was born here in the States. He is a brilliant young man, and not only does he tutor, but he has helped us figuring out some tracking methodology, and he is just lovely. I've also kind of adopted him as my son. And the other pair is a woman, Diane, who's helping Araceli get through her citizenship exam and teach her everything that she needed to get through this exam. And now she is a citizen. So it's very cool. Our volunteers can also teach classes. And again, these are some pictures from yesterday's class with Liz, who's teaching storytelling. And they always pair up. So if one person can't be there, the other one will be there. And the students, again, they love this. Go on. So dealing with the pandemic, I was asked in May to kind of interview our teachers and ask them how they've dealt with this. So I have a little short video where you can hear some of our volunteers talking about their experience. Hi, everyone. I'm Joanne Telser-Frere, the Director of Project Development at Literacy Chicago. I'm here today with some of our teachers and staff to give you an update about how we moved our classes online. So first, Jeannie, would you like to tell us what class you teach, what position you have, and any challenges or exciting things to tell us?
Sure. So I am a volunteer teaching a citizenship class, and I am also a part-time employee where I work helping GED students get into their classes. The citizenship class has been pretty amazing throughout this pandemic situation. We've been online since last April. So we got, our classes together online pretty quickly. And my students have been real troopers. They all show up for every class. Some of them even show up. I've got one student who's had to return to Russia, and she comes to class from Moscow several times a week. So that's been really rewarding to see everybody showing up, and they've adjusted, learned how to use a lot of different kinds of technology with me, and it's been very exciting. So yeah, there you go.
Patricia, what's your experience been?
Hi, well, my experience as an AmeriCorps member through Literacy Volunteers of Illinois has been very good here at Literacy Chicago. I think a challenge may be the testing of students via Zoom or Google Chat, but yeah, I spoke with the CASAS team, and now I'm able to do online CASAS through the Zoom and navigate where the students are able to be tested and we can have their reading level recorded.
Thank you. Laura, tell us about what you do. You have a conversation class.
Yes. Hi, I facilitate a conversation group, and my students are all taking English, but they also love to come just to practice conversation, and they love to use their imaginations and tell little stories. And some of them, as in Jeannie's class, are participating from other countries. A couple from Russia and a lady from Peru, and they're determined to join, and they are learning a lot.
Karen and Betty teach our adult literacy classes, and those classes were the hardest to get started because most of the people in those classes can't read very well. So it was a big challenge to get them online, but we have, and they're doing great. Karen?
Well, that's what I was going to say. The extreme learning experience for both the teachers and the students, and learning how to help people who can't necessarily read all the instructions, how to make the most of Zoom or Google Meet, and how to interact online. It's a totally different experience than in the classroom, but it's been very rewarding.
Betty, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, just a bit. I co-teach phonics and reading and writing. And I think what's been wonderful about Zoom and COVID is that it was a chance to connect with the students. Had it not been for Zoom, you know, we would have missed them all this time. And there's camaraderie that's developed in the class between everybody. So it's just, you know, it's been a learning experience for everyone, but it's become a very positive thing, the online learning.
So I thank everyone here and all the rest of our volunteers and our staff, and come join us, Literacy Chicago. Bye. So you got to meet some of the volunteers, and that brings me to the end. I just wanted to remind you, if you weren't here yesterday, that tomorrow at 6 o'clock Chicago time, so I'm not sure what time it is there, 6 in the evening. I think it's something like 4:30 in the morning in India, and you have to look it up. CST time, Chicago Central Standard Time. I mentioned this yesterday, but I just wanted to remind you that we have authors and prominent people in Chicago reading either their books or books that have had an effect on them, positive effect. And if anyone listening today would like to come, please send me an email. My email is on the last slide, and I will be thrilled to send you a free Zoom link. This is kind of one of our mini fundraisers, but I would love to have some international guests join us. So I think I left the trailer in, but we could skip it, Mashoud, because I think everybody saw it yesterday. Yeah, we could just skip it. Oh, do you want to play it again? I mean, it's okay. Yeah, I thought it will be on the slides that Mashoud will post. And I thank you for being here. And I especially thank you if you were here 2 days in a row. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much, Joanne, for today's presentation. And it's so exciting to learn about the initiatives which are being taken here. I think one audience member is requesting for the link. So would you like to maybe mention which specific link can they visit?
Maybe she means for the invite tomorrow.
I think she's referring to maybe the website, like where they can learn more about Literacy Chicago.
So I'll put in our website, If you want to reach me, you can write to info@Literacy Chicago on the contact page on our website. And I read all of that mail. So I'm just say I heard you, I was with you on your presentation, and reach out to me. It's info@, this is the easy one.
Right.
That's easier than my whole name, and I'm the one who's in charge of that box. So,
right. So,
thank you.
Yeah. So this is the URL of the website, www.literacychicago.org, and you can also reach out on info@literacychicago.org as well.
If you go to the last slide, we could leave my email up while we're talking.
Yes. Right. Great. So this is Joanne's email ID, and we would encourage everyone to please to write to her. And also, it's like some of the ideas, Joanne, which you've shared are they're so interesting, especially the theater aspect, and I know that that's one of the very exciting projects that you and team are working on. So we definitely want to kind of learn more about that in the coming weeks, months, and maybe have you here again with the launch of the book as well. So we're looking forward to that.
Oh, I would love that.
Absolutely. Joanne, I think there were some important points which you made about, like when we talk about adult literacy, it needs a kind of a caring and sensitive approach, because when we are working with children, right? So it's a different setup. I mean, socio-emotionally, how children feel about their own learning and education is very different from how adults would. Because I mean, it is like the stories which you share. It is really brave of adults who didn't, maybe because of circumstances, could not do well in school, to come back and say that, hey, I'm going to give it another chance. So could you take us through a bit more about psychologically, what is it for your learners when they walk in to the Literacy Chicago classes for the first time, and what goes through that?
I would love to tell you about that, because I think it's probably one of their most frightening moments. First of all, they come in, and the first thing we have to do is see what their level is. So whether it's online or they're in person, we kind of throw a list of words at them and say, read. And they're coming because they can't read. So we have to be very gentle and explain to them. When somebody comes in, I tell them, I'm so proud of you for being here today. It's usually the first thing I tell them, because I tell them, I know how hard this is. When you're an adult and you can't read, and maybe you feel like you're the only person who can't read. And then I give them that scary number. I said, that we talked about yesterday. I said, nearly a third of the people in Chicago can't read. And they kind of look at me, and I said, yeah, but you're smarter than they are, because you're here. You're going to do something about it. And I'm very respectful of them. A lot of these people who come are very intelligent, and they're not sitting in the streets. They have their homes, their families. Many of them, as I mentioned, have had careers. One woman who's been with us for a while she had her driver's license for years, even though she couldn't read. And she had a successful career in she was a tailor. She designed clothes for people, all kinds of people. Many are very good with their hands. A lot of people are kinesthetic learners. And so we talk about what they can do as opposed to what they can't do. And then I explain to them before they come into the class that they're going to meet other people who are like them, who've made the decision to change their lives. So I think it's very important to put people at ease. Our classes are kind of like Las Vegas. we have a saying here, what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas. And the classes are kind of like a family, because the students are very welcoming to new students, and we immediately introduce everyone, and we try to make them feel as comfortable as possible on the very first day. And once they see that they're not alone and that they're doing something positive for themselves, it's kind of a mind changer. You like you said, we have to change the way they think about themselves. Just when was it? 2 days ago, one of our students, who we were trying to teach how to use a QR code, because now they have QR codes to sign in. And she came in, she was all annoyed and frustrated, and she's, I can't do this. She's angry. I said, okay. I said, you can do this. No, I can't. I said to her, do you remember when we started digital literacy classes a couple of years ago, and you told me, I can't do this, it's too hard. And I said, you can do this, and I'm going to get you a tutor. And she said, yes. I said, okay, you can do this. Later on, she came into my office and she thanked me. She thanked me. This woman last year won an award from the Secretary of State for being one of the best students. They choose 10 students each year that receive this award. And this year was virtual. Usually we go to the capital of Illinois, which is Springfield, not Chicago. And there's a big ceremony. This year on the ceremony, the students could speak. And she said, and I was almost in tears. She said, I want to thank Joanne for pushing me, because she made me go to digital literacy classes. She made me learn how to use a computer, and I didn't want to do it. But now, all through COVID, I've been able to continue my classes. So she came into my office, and gave me a huge hug. And oh my God, I mean, we were both like, oh my God, so emotional. But I'm so proud of her. And I said to her, I said, you only have one problem. And she said, what is it? I said, you're lacking in self-confidence. You have proved to me that you can do things, and you do them. But somewhere there's that little girl in you, and that's afraid, and that feels like she's not keeping up with the class, and that she can't do it. And I said, I'll bet when you were in school, that's how you felt. And she said, yes. I said, so just tell that little girl to go away now, because you can do it. And I'm just so proud of her. I'm so proud of her.
Okay. That's so wonderful. Thank you for sharing that story. And this point which you mentioned, that there's like a little child who might be scared within, right? And I think often here when we look at adult literacy here in India as well, this is a challenge which many learners come up with, right? That it is a question of will I be able to do it? I won't be able to do it. It's too difficult now. As in, so there's a lot of question on confidence as well.
Yeah.
Like how when it comes to within the class, right? So the caring and the empathy of the teacher or the instructor or the mentor is so crucial, as you demonstrated. What would be some other some kind of classroom management kind of ideas which teachers need to kind of keep in mind, especially with respect to adult learners?
So I'm laughing because what we did a couple of years ago was to go into the classroom, because you have to remember that these are people who did not succeed in regular school, and they don't know the rules. So I walked into the classroom one day and I said, there's a lot of noise in here, and there's a lot going on that makes it hard for you to learn. I said, I think we need some rules in our classes. And I said, I want you guys to make them up. I said, I'm not going to impose rules on you. I want you to tell me what you need to have a good environment to learn in. And so they came up with their own rules. And I have a thing, I don't like to put things in the negative. So we tried to make everything positive. So some of the rules were I will listen to people and speak when they're finished. Okay, that sounds nicer than don't interrupt, right? I will listen and speak when they're finished. I will eat during our breaks instead of don't eat during class, right? I will turn off my telephone as opposed to I won't play with my phone in class. So there were 5 or 6 rules. I will be on time as opposed to I won't be late. And recently, after studying some of the Constitution, those rules were updated, and now it's called the Constitution of our class. And they added one other rule that I love, and we didn't change their words. So we will avoid cussing in class, so no swear words, but we will use polite language. And I had to leave in we won't cuss, because I just thought that that's their words. And that's one of the tricks, I think, in teaching. I could go on for hours about teaching, but I think one of the exercises we do is we have our students dictate a story to the teacher in their words, and the teacher writes down exactly their words. We don't care about punctuation and about grammar. The grammar could be wrong, but it's their words. We put in a little punctuation and correct spelling. So when the student reads this text, and I know we're already gone over our time, but when the student reads their text, they are reading their words the way they speak. And that's a really effective way of gaining confidence in the fact that they can produce something. Then they have to copy it over, of course, but.
Right. It's Joanne, I know that you have a train to catch as well, but we would just want to, in conclusion, just ask you one thing, which we, you're working with many of these amazing students, and like you said, that English as a second language, right? So the idea of multilingualism, which is, again, a major challenge or like an opportunity here in India as well.
Oh, yes.
How do you address, the first language or the mother tongue being like Spanish or some other language? Is there, is there a challenge, and like how do you address that understanding of, the alphabet and the sound in this multilingual context? Your thoughts, please.
I personally taught ESL for many years, and I often had people in my classes who from all over the world. So I'd have 5, 6, 7, 8 different languages. So you kind of have to go in the one language that they're all working on in English. And as a teacher, you have to kind of put away your sense of being very proper and correct. You have to be silly. You have to be willing to get up there and act things out and, make funny faces and do whatever you can to get people to understand and laugh. When they laugh at you, then they can laugh at themselves. If you're up there being a little silly, that allows students to be a little silly and have fun. So you have to pantomime with beginning students, draw pictures. Some of my pictures were so terrible that the class would laugh. Remember one day they laughed for 15 minutes. They couldn't stop. It was such a horrible picture, but it's okay. It's not about me. It's about how do I get that message to them? And then if there were students in the class who spoke a language that I knew a little bit, I would translate a word. If I could translate a French word or a Spanish word or sometimes a word in Arabic. And that made them feel good. But, you can't just do a class in one student's language when there's 10 other people who speak 10 other languages. So you kind of have to go with the flow and allow people to be ridiculous. And again, the Las Vegas rule, You have to tell them, what happens here stays there. Go ahead, say what you want, do what you want, and you have to create an atmosphere of confidence and trust, and the right to make a mistake. And once they feel comfortable, there's I always try to make my classroom feel like a family. So they not a fighting family, a family that has good parents, everything goes smooth, they love each other, and once you get that going, people can help each other. And I always believe in teachers stand back, let them work. You're there kind of to push them up. So that's my philosophy on teaching, and of course we could talk about that for another hour.
Right. So, but of course, I mean, when you said family, we were also talking about, love, care, and a lot of fights as well. So
Yes, exactly.
Maybe how you deal with the fights is something which we can take up in another session. But truly,
Exactly.
Joanne, it's it's been such wonderful and so enlightening and elevating, just listening to what you're doing, the work you're leading at Literacy Chicago, the mission, and like the values of the organization. It came out so beautifully in the stories that you have shared. And we would again encourage all our viewers and who will be watching this video to also support the amazing work which Joanne is doing, and especially with respect to this new project of looking at theater as a way to kind of make literacy accessible to people around the world. So we'll surely have Joanne back in the future again to talk more about that. But for today, Joanne, thank you once again so much for your time, for your ideas, and for sharing this, disruptive, in a positive way, disruptive work which Literacy Chicago is doing in the area of this, much needed adult literacy.
Thank you so much, Mashoud, for having me, for reaching out, and I can't wait to keep working with Global Dream.
Absolutely. We look forward as well. Thank you, Joanne. And thank you to all of you for joining us.